Hi there! We're so happy that you're here for our next conversation all about knowing thy numbers.
It's all about money still. That's the theme.
Yes, I mean, life is not all about money, but it's really important to talk about it because it is what stymies a lot of coaches is their money stuff.
Well, yeah, and to be honest, guys, you're running a business. Money is part of doing business.
Yeah.
And we assume you want a successful business, so it's definitely going to be there.
Exactly. I mean, never mind whether you want to be a millionaire or not, building a business that is self-sustaining and sustaining of you is important. I like to joke that it's important to go ahead and support Mr. Mortgage and Mrs. Visa, right? Whatever your ambition is. You know, it's not about being a millionaire. It's about being real about your numbers and your money.
Well, and chances are, if you're a coach, you're really heart-centered about it. You have a message that you want to get out into the world and a group of people that you want to help. Well, you can help them best by recognizing that you're going to need to deal with the money in your business to help sustain your message over time.
100%. I mean, have you ever just avoided the money conversation altogether?
Yes, guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty.
And I mean, it's usually more than a conversation. Money usually involves some kind of a calculation, some kind of, decision making around where the money is going to go and where you're going to get it and all this kind of stuff. So, I have definitely had my share of ostriching.
Well, when you first started out, I know you were charging, as we said before, $10 a session. And then you had a discussion with someone that kind of changed your perspective.
So I will never forget this moment. This is one of those, your parents sometimes will do something and you're like, dang, that was like an ace parenting moment.
I thought I was done with being parented.
Apparently I was not. So I remember I was sitting at my home desk and I was working on a proposal of what I was going to extend as an offer to someone that I had met through networking.
Yep.
And I was really trying to figure out exactly what I was going to offer. So that was kind of issue number one. I was doing that before I had every single meeting. We'll talk about that another day. But the point was I had the spreadsheet open and I was just in this self-negotiation mode. Yep. I kept on putting a number and then I backspace, and
that's too much. Oh.
Yeah, that's too much. And I put a lower number and I'm like, I don't think I can really live on that. But, it's better than nothing. And I was just totally in my head about it. And my mother happened to walk by. Now, my mom has had some kind of business venture that she's been running for 30 years. So she's a seasoned business owner. Yep. And we ended up having a conversation that changed everything for me.
Oh, yeah. Whole new perspective.
She asked me, she's like, what are you working on? And I said, I'm trying to figure out what I want to charge for my coaching services. And she offered some advice and I was like, oh, Mom, you don't know anything about coaching. I am in a certification and I have Googled all these things. And bless her heart, she was completely patient with that super snobby response. And she said to me, Amanda, you need to charge whatever you need to charge to make sure that you're doing this dream and not working for somebody else.
Boom! Truth bomb!
And I was like, what? And she's like, seriously, if you make less with this coaching business than you would in the consulting gig that you were in before, you won't make the leap. Because you're always going to have that backup plan that's better and juicier than your main plan, the thing you actually want to do.
Well, it's kind of the opposite of burning the boats. It's like, instead of burning the boat so you can't go back, it's like, that boat is so much nicer. I don't want this one. I want that one.
And that's exactly what's happened. I mean, over the course of building the business over the past couple of years, I've become less and less employable is kind of the joke, right?
True.
Just because I figured it out. I figured out, what my numbers needed to be to make it work. And I've learned sales and marketing techniques that allow me to have amazing, impactful coaching conversations.
Well, and that really kind of leads us to topic number one from a teaching perspective. And that's understand what you want to take home. Amanda knew from that discussion with her mom that she needed a certain minimum bar to make sure she continued in the game moving forward in a passion that she wanted to continue with. or she'd go back to the corporate job. So when we talk about know what you want to take home, we're not talking about the revenue level. That's kind of the top beginning number before any expenses. No, you need to know what you're actually going to take home as your pay out of the business. So after expenses of the business, for example.
Yeah. And I mean, if you missed it, last week we talked about some of the top 10 expenses of a coaching business. Definitely listen to that, because I love what you had to say about the revenue is not the number. And I think a lot of coaches are setting a revenue target thinking it's exactly equal to their income. And the truth is you need that revenue number. That, by the way, is the amount that you're charging people for the service.
Correct.
That number needs to be big enough to cover off your taxes, your expenses, your overhead, your personal development, all the things we talked about last week. And then you get the amount that you get to take home.
And then it pays you.
Yes.
That's right.
And by the way, you might have taxes on that too. I'm not a tax advisor, but I'm just saying that the number is probably a lot higher than you think.
Yep, depending on how you structure your business. But there are other components beyond just the revenue that you have to consider as well.
Absolutely. The other thing is your capacity.
The quantity in this, the Q.
The Q, yeah. So revenue is equal to P times Q. So P is the price. You need to know the quantity of the number of hours you have available to give someone to coaching. And this is another area that I see a lot of coaches kind of like, what are you doing? Is if they end up with like 23 or 25 clients, or oh
my gosh.
We
came across somebody not too long ago that had, I think, close to 50.
Yeah. And I'm like, how are you even functioning? Like, are you having a 5-minute coaching call, or like what is going on? So get real about the time, right? I actually, when I first started doing this, and I still do this, I take a grid, an empty grid that represents my entire week and hours available. And I actually count out how many sessions I can do without running into each other or robbing myself of preparation for the session, or
leaving time for lunch,
leaving time for breaks, and really nurturing my own performance, leaving time to go to the gym. Like, there's all kinds of things you want to make sure you're leaving time for. And then you've got the leftovers that are going to be available to offer as a coaching business. Now, a lot of people will say to me, Amanda, why don't I just go with group? Why don't I just do group coaching right out the gate? And I'm like, babe, slow down for a sec. Just one quick sec, right? Yep. Because filling a group program does require more marketing savvy and more of a process to be in place. And you're going to want to have some comfort with it. And the other thing is with a group, you have people starting at a point in time.
That's true.
So that adds a lot of pressure for you to like get it done. Whereas private one-on-one coaching, you can have a conversation today and we could start coaching tomorrow. Like, it's very, very simple to get started with it, and you'll get some experience under your belt. You're going to find that you can charge a lot more for private coaching. So, for your first dozen or so sales, make it private coaching, right? But recognize that you probably don't have more than about 10 spots open and available, 10 to 15 at the most. If you're creeping above the 15, watch out.
Capacity could be a problem. But something as well, you advocated private coaching, one-on-one type coaching. There's a benefit to that as well on an expense side. And that's something else you need to understand is what are the expenses you're going to incur? We talked about this a little earlier and in last week's session. Those expenses are something you also need to keep in mind. So it's revenue minus expenses
equals your profit.
And you're paid out of that profit generally, depending on how your business is structured. So you've got to remember taxes, those very expenses we talked about earlier. But the nice thing about private one-on-one coaching, especially high ticket as you were talking about, is because you often don't have as much expense maybe as you would supporting a large group or a subscription service-based function where you have a lot more administrative upkeep you have to pay for.
Absolutely. A lot more tools and everything. And can I add to something you just said about profit?
Sure.
So you should actually not be paying yourself out of your profit necessarily. I think one of the biggest changes we made in our business that made a huge difference is when we just said, this is our salary. We're going to be paying ourselves the same consistent amount every single month. And in months that the business does better, then like really much better, we might even do a bonus or something like that. But when you're calculating your expenses, I really encourage you to pay yourself and count it as an expense. Don't count it. Don't just pay yourself out of the profits.
Well, and to be clear, maybe we're getting into accounting-ese versus business execution in this case. To be clear, guys, talk to a seasoned professional about your business structure, because that does impact how you're paid. I mean, if you're structured one way, you do come out of functionally the profit of the business, but you still need to plan for it, to Amanda's point, and make sure that when you price and execute your available hours and so forth, you're planning for how much you're going to pay yourself. Versus if you're maybe incorporated as a corporation, well, then you actually are expense to the business before the profit line comes to the bottom.
Exactly. Important disclaimer, we are not accountants or anything like that.
Thank you.
He's more of a nerd because that was his undergrad, but he is not an active CPA. He's not
We're not giving
kind of
financial advice.
For me, it was more like mindset, right? Have this mindset that you're going to pay yourself the same amount every month, and that's going to be part of your minimum.
Absolutely. Put that in the beginning. So we've talked about revenue. We've talked about quantity. What's the next thing you have to talk about?
And we talked about expenses.
We did?
Yes. So the next thing is that you need to figure out what you need to therefore charge for each of your packages, right? So the real simple way of doing this is taking the total revenue you need to generate, divide by the quantity or number of coaching spots you have, and that's basically your monthly. So that monthly rate, you can build that into the pricing for your packages and all that. And we do recommend that you have a package structure as opposed to having people pay you session to session. Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons, more than we're going to go into necessarily today. But knowing that, it allows you to build up your offer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the whole point of this, running a business with revenue and expense and coming down to profit and so forth, is you really want to be able to generate a profit. This is a business. And you need it to be self-sustaining over time. You want it to support not just your message, but also your lifestyle that you want to actually be able to enjoy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're really excited because this week we're actually giving a freebie, and it is the C.R.U.S.H method calculator. Now, this calculator is a model that we designed that helps you get started on calculating what your minimum package price would need to be. So it's a pretty cool little tool, and at the end you can email the results to yourself if you'd like. So just click the link anywhere around this video and you'll be able to access that coaching C.R.U.S.H method calculator for free.
And get started pricing out your coaching business.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're not done talking about money just yet. Tune in next week and make sure you're subscribed. We are on most of the things, right? So Facebook, YouTube, subscribe to our email list. You can subscribe to Instagram and Apple iTunes. Like, we're everywhere. So make sure you subscribe because you're not going to want to miss our blog next week, where we're going to talk about what the real cost of having a free attitude is in your business.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see you next week, guys. We'll talk about free.
Bye. Hey there. Thanks for tuning into this week's The C.R.U.S.H Method video blog. I'm Amanda Kaufman.
And I'm Chris Lavelle. We loved having you here.
Be sure to subscribe to receive more goodies in your inbox every week, and share with others you know who are eager to learn more about building their coaching and expert business.
And don't forget to leave a comment below to share your own experiences to inspire and lift others on this journey.
And check out our podcast on iTunes called The C.R.U.S.H Method Show so we can join you on your commutes and workouts.